This was not a numerical decision. This was an emotional decision. I didn't start this topic off by having like a number sitting on my shoulder. I had a pain, a weight on my chest as I was talking about it.
How would you like to own your home outright? What would it feel like to never make a mortgage payment ever again? On our mortgage-free segment today, we're going to interview Andrew Dewar from Winnipeg, Canada. Recently, Andrew became mortgage-free. Today, we're going to learn how he accomplished this family financial goal and what he's doing with his money now. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thanks for having me on, Andy.
Absolutely, man. You and I have known each other for quite a while now, so I'm excited to share your mortgage-free story finally, and I really appreciate it. Let's start with the mortgage-free 3. These are quick, short answers to help people understand your mortgage-free journey. And the first one is, what was your starting mortgage principal balance?
It was $320,000. 320. Yeah.
Then how long did it take you to pay off $320,000?
Roughly 6 years.
6 years.
Just over
Awesome.
6 years.
Very cool. And then what is the home value today?
Ooh, it's around 750 now.
750. Isn't that nice when real estate doubles?
It's nice when it does what it's supposed to do, what you hope it's going to do. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. That is an incredible asset to have. And, we can talk about future plans with that mortgage-free asset and all that goes into it, because I have some interesting questions. But let's first talk about your motivation. Why did you want to become mortgage-free in the first place?
Oh, that's a great question. So when I started out, we built our dream home, and I was really excited to get into it. The first night we got into the house, and I just had this like sinking feeling, like I was sinking into the bottom of a money pit, which was debt. And it was the most debt I had ever had, and I just didn't feel good with it. I was having trouble sleeping, and nobody around me was talking about mortgage freedom or anything like that, but it didn't feel right to me. So I just kept feeling, even as I talk about it today, I can feel like this pressure on my chest from it. It's like I have PTSD from this. Yeah. So it was really just that sense of pressure and doom that would kind of come from this debt and how long it was going to take for me to pay off. And it was just a real need to feel safe in my house, then to have a desire to not have debt anymore. As soon as I had that much, it did not feel good. And I didn't regret the choice, but I knew something had to give sooner than later.
Absolutely. I'm feeling the same feelings that you're talking about. I felt the same way. It was such a big commitment. Very happy with the home that we live in. But yeah, it was one of those things where it felt like an immense amount of pressure. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're feeling. Let's talk about the steps that you took to pay this $320,000 mortgage off. What did you do to make some progress on this? Did you increase income, decrease expenses? What did you do?
So at the time, I didn't do too much to increase the income. My kids were very young at this point, and it was the new house. So it was really about knowing where we were at in that stage of life. So a lot of it was just cutting expenses down. And we got really basic on a lot of things, like very basic breakfast. We stopped eating out. We stopped going to movies. The one that always kind of makes people's eyes pop out, and it was that we went to a shared flip phone for like $20 a month service. Up here in Canada, the cell phone plans are a lot more expensive than down there. And so we just looked at everything in the budget and figured out how to hack it one way or another. So I love playing hockey, and I would manage the hockey team and that would be my way of playing for free. I would just look at every little thing that we were doing. I'd go, okay, what can I do? Pay less for this to kind of find my angle on it so that I can reduce my expenses. And then all of that extra money just kept getting put onto the mortgage every 2 weeks.
That's incredible. Yeah. And then what were the conversations like at home when you guys were discussing this? Was this Andrew's wacky mortgage-free plan, or were you and your wife in sync at that time?
At that time, we were in sync with it. It wasn't a good feeling. I was more doing all the money stuff. So it was kind of, this is what I feel we should be doing. And it was really hard because you talk to other people to kind of get a feel for it, and no one around us was going, yeah, you should do that, or this is a good idea. It was kind of the idea of paying off a mortgage faster than the 20, 25, 30 years felt extremely foreign to most people. It's like I was speaking another language when I bring it up. So I really had to come to that place where I was thinking for myself and going, is this the right move for me? And it did feel like it. And luckily, we were on the same page with that as we move forward, which is a big factor in doing anything big financially, as you know.
That's incredible. Yeah, I know for a lot of people, when we talk about these things, whether it's Coast Fire or mortgage freedom or building up your net worth or, spending less than you earn, wacky concepts like these, it can feel lonely sometimes. So
It is.
what ways did you find community or collaboration or encouragement to move on? Because if you look around your neighborhood, like you said, there weren't a lot of people doing what you're doing.
No, there really wasn't, and a few people, you would talk about it with, and it really wasn't received. So I just kind of, I turned inward with a lot of stuff, and just had to decide that what I was doing was right. And I remember reading something from Warren Buffett at the time where he was talking, and I am not Warren Buffett. Let's just get that straight. But the concept was that if I listened to what everyone else is telling me to do, I wouldn't be who I am. And that kind of gave me some solace in knowing that, okay, I don't necessarily have all the answers for this, but this feels right. And from everything I'm looking at, it seems like it'll be okay. I mean, I still went into the bank to make that last payment, kind of wondering, like, are they going to let me do this right now? They did, but they were very confused. The tellers had no clue what to do with that. So it was kind of
it
fun.
is definitely an odd bank request when you go into and ask for that to happen. Let's talk about. So you had an aggressive pay down. You got $320,000, and you did this in 6 years. That's great. What was your general income range during that time to help people get an understanding of
Yeah,
how
for
you did
sure.
that?
We were in the kind of high 5 figures, low 6 figures area.
Got it.
So
Got it. That's still pretty aggressive. I mean, that's you saving a good amount of your income towards this goal, right?
it was, yeah. And we were blessed in the sense that, a lot of the little stuff adds up, right? It's the pennies that make the dollars. And when we can get hand-me-down clothes for kids that are, how kids are at that age, like they're growing through everything. Like they outgrow it before you leave the store sometimes. And as you're going through these things, it was just nice to have a lot of these bigger ticket items get taken away. And when you take out going out, when you accept that, you can just build a good base with your kids at home and watch the movies that you already own, or maybe have a single streaming service as like your fringe thing, or your treat, not your fringe thing. These things kind of become more, they can become easier to do because you don't know better after a while, and your kids never know better. It's, if I was to try to do it now with to start all over again, it's not going to go over well. It just isn't. But I drove old cars. My parents had an old Toyota Sienna van that was red, and they gave it to us, and I drove that thing into the ground for way longer than I probably should have. But it was like just really being passionate about being debt free in that moment. And that was kind of like the blinders were on, and that's what we were going for. So any kind of extra money, tax refunds, gifts, whatever that may have come along, all went on the mortgage because it just made sense. You have the long-term view, and you just kind of commit to it.
When you paid off this mortgage, how was life different for you and your family at that time? Talk about that.
It was really different. At that point, we were able to start talking about the trips that we wanted to do, the places we wanted to see. At that point, you get so used to putting every extra dime down on your mortgage that suddenly you have this extra amount coming in. Well, not coming in, but it's like needing to be redirected. So going on trips was one of the things that we had promised that we would do. So we did Disney and Hawaii and the mountains and all these things that were kind of, things you wanted to do with the kids. And then the rest started getting put into investments because it was just, we were able to do that. And also, got the cell phone, got, like little creeps, got rid of the red van, and these little things started to kind of come in as time went on. But it all factored into a plan of, let's not go. Yes, we've been on a low carb diet for a month now. Let's not go out and eat every bag of chips in the aisle. Let's just give ourselves a little bit of slack as we go along.
Yeah, it's like you laddered up to those abilities to save more and more during the mortgage-free process, and then you had to almost ladder down towards this area of, hey, let's enjoy more of the money, but not go crazy, because it would be easy to kind of backslide into a way of maybe spending more than you have coming in. So it could be a
Exactly.
process, right?
It really is. It's an unlearning process, and you don't want to unlearn too much of it, in my opinion. But that's just me. I'm overly cautious with money when it comes to stuff like that. Hence, paying off the debt as fast as we
Yeah.
did,
Did
for
did the
sure.
newer car, did the newer cell phone, did it feel a little bit better when you had this mortgage paid off versus when you had the mortgage? Did the ability for you to enjoy those things feel easier?
Yeah, it really did. It felt earned in my mind, in my wacky way of labeling things. I felt like I had earned it, and still going through things, it was kind of, you get out of that debt hole, and the first thing you want to do is go get everything you've been craving. But again, that'll just push you back into the hole with a different amount. So that first 6 months to a year was really hard because you're building up your reserves, and you're still wanting to live a new, better life without debt, but you don't want to take on debt. So, the car was, you still had to save up for the car. You still had to be financial prudent.
Absolutely. So, what did your kids think about this mortgage-free process? And do you think this is something that they learned enough that they're going to want to do as they get older?
I think they knew about it. I mean, they were too young to understand what a mortgage was as we were
Sure.
doing this. Now that they're in high school now and learning about money and having jobs and all these things. And it's really interesting because as college talk is coming up, they're going like, well, I don't want to go into debt for this. I don't, so they are very debt adverse. And that's really the only thing I could hope for them, because, like it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I'll just borrow to get this, because there's so many of us that do that, sometimes out of necessity and other times out of habit. So it's nice to see that the kids are looking at things with financial eyes similar to their parents.
That's great. I mean, that's a fantastic lesson. I mean, you don't need them to know the details of a mortgage or even all the complexities of it, but just knowing that it feels better when you've paid for something in full, and then you can go out and enjoy life. I think those are perfect generational wealth lessons to take
They
away,
really.
because I mean, there's a lot of people who are stuck because of the opposite way of thinking. Now, Andrew, there's somebody listening right now, and they're thinking, you know what, this is great, but what about money that he put down on the mortgage? He could have used towards investing, or maybe investing in real estate or a small business or things like that. I feel like the return on investment might have been better if he did those things instead of paying off his mortgage. I didn't ask you your interest rate though, so that's an important piece of the puzzle. Talk to us about maybe that thought of, could this money have been better used on other investments?
Absolutely. I was 100% wrong in doing it. I hope that person's happy now. Um, the
Best
truth
answer
is,
ever.
the truth, thanks. You're right. I'm not wrong, but
You're
you're
right.
right. I think, I've had that argument so many times that the only way I can present it is this. It doesn't, to the person that's thinking, but you could invest it and you could do this and that.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. I could have. I didn't feel comfortable with it. This was not a numerical decision. This was an emotional decision. I didn't start this topic off by having like a number sitting on my shoulder. I had a pain, a weight on my chest as I was talking about it. That's a very different feeling. And no matter what kind of numerical rationale you have for investing, it just didn't resonate with me. And I did explore it. I'm an accountant in my background. So like I knew the numbers. I have a spreadsheet program that I created, which I'm happy to give to your guests if they want it. Like it's an emotional decision. I think that's the thing that everybody who comes up with this argument has, is like, but it could have been. It's like, yeah, it could have been. But, when interest rates started to climb, I wasn't worried. And when, these other things have happened in the world, I had that calm sense of being, knowing that I didn't have to worry about it in that moment. And it's a
Absolutely.
big
And if
thing to
you
me.
had to go back and do it all over again, would you change anything?
No, I would do it. I would do it all over again. The one thing I probably would, I don't know if I would do that, because I would say I would have looked for more ways to earn money, because I really didn't look into that, because my kids were younger and I really wanted to get all the time I could with them. But, yeah, I'm sure would have bought Apple a little bit more probably when I started, but like that's about that's about it.
Yes, with hindsight of knowing all the stocks that went up for sure. Yeah, that's another great answer. Absolutely. Andrew, you are out there helping people with all this type of information, all sorts of ways to become a better person, ways to become a better you. I know you have this on your site and your podcast called 5 Year You. Tell people where they can connect with you and learn more from you.
So if you go to 5yearyou.com, what we do is we have the podcast and we have a coaching program that we do where we help people with a 5-week intensive kind of clearly define what their best life is going to be 5 years from now. And we help you coordinate, organize it, and come up with a cohesive strategy to move towards it. And then we support you on your way. So I think that's the biggest thing. Is it's one thing to have a 5-year plan, like pay off your mortgage. As somebody who didn't have the community of growing into this person that I wanted to become at that point, and who the person we're always growing. So having that coach there to help you grow, to help support you in those moments that you need it, and to build a community around that is really what we're about, because it's way easier to have when you have a cheering squad. And I didn't have a big cheering squad doing this. So
especially if you're going towards goals that can sometimes feel lonely, it's nice to have that type of community and people to help you along the way. Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Want to see how extra principal payments can make you mortgage free faster? Well, check out our free mortgage payoff calculator on our website at marriagekidsandmoney.com. You can access it using the links below and insert a little bit of information, hit the calculate button, and see how close you are to mortgage freedom.